Hey, welcome back to the Google Ads series for cardiologists. So we've come a long way. If you're jumping into this in the middle, by the way, you discovered this video on YouTube or somewhere else, and it's just kind of like, looks like a standalone video. This is part of a pretty extensive series on Google Ads for cardiology where we cover quite a bit. So let's actually go through what we're covering here. So what we'll cover, hold on, let me just get this out of the way. Scoot myself out. So just to recap real quick, we've covered conversion tracking, why that was so important. We covered knowing your goals. You got to know where you're going before you get there. We determined proper budget. So we look at a profitability analysis to give you comfort with how much you want to bid for Google search. We talked about the Google Ads formulas, ad rank and quality score, why they're so important. We talked about keyword research and identifying high commercial intent. We then looked at proper campaign structure to target the right searches. We looked at profitable bidding strategies. And then we covered how to create effective ad copy, with the 15 different headlines, the 4 descriptions. We talked about building the ad copy in a Google Sheets document and the process of moving that into the Google Ads editor and then pushing it live into the account. And now we're ready to take a deep dive, kind of a deepish dive into Performance Max. So if you recall, when we launch campaigns, there's a whole method to launching, and this goes back to the actual buying funnel, right? So if we talk about the way people buy, we're from these different awareness stages, from unaware all the way down to most aware. They translate into these marketing goals, where somebody's unaware, you want to create awareness. If they're problem aware, you want to drive interest. Same with solution aware, drive interest. If they're service aware, you want to influence that decision if they're looking for something specific to cardiology. And then most aware, you want to compel action. Okay, so that puts us right at the bottom of the funnel. So what we're talking about here is driving action. And we talked about this in earlier videos. So phase 1 was targeting known performers. So targeting the searches that have the highest probability of conversion into phone calls and bookings and form submissions, and then working your way backward to the funnel. So using another campaign type then to expand the funnel out and capture more of those unpredictable long tail searches. And we keep moving backwards. And here we are, right? So if you think about a timeline in the way this is introduced, we never ever launched Performance Max in the beginning, especially the reason is because you don't have any conversion data. So you want to train the algorithm over time, give it the proper fuel to be able to go out and find the right people that will convert into patients for your practice. So there's an actual schedule that we will follow, pretty much over time. Again, it's a time rollout. So month 1, month 2, you can see it at the bottom here, where we are doing in the beginning a lot of times exact match bidding. This would be a new account, by the way. And then at some point in time in the blue here, we launch, a Performance Max, max conversion campaign with target CPA. And then at some point further on down the line, we're launching Performance Max. But it never happens right away because you need to get the training into the algorithm. Google needs to know exactly what does success look like for your practice. And we use those success signals over time to be able to, again, march backward through the funnel, expanding, growing, and scaling the amount of leads that come into your practice on a regular basis. And then once we get the Performance Max, it's ready to go, right? So we have gone through this process. We are now ready to start implementing Performance Max. So let's take a look at that. So what in the world is Performance Max anyway, right? This is one of the main campaign types that Google's been pushing for the last couple of years. And quite honestly, when they first launched it, it was more geared to e-commerce. You could try to make it work for lead gen, but most of the time it was generating very questionable lead quality. Over time, it has gotten better and better and better. And we now have some fairly granular controls over making sure that we're able to regulate to some degree the quality of the leads that come in. So we're going to go through this step by step, but first I wanted to just kind of give you an overview of what exactly performance is. So it's full funnel, right? And if you think about that funnel that we were just looking at, now we're at the point where we can take full advantage of other types of channels within the Google Ads ecosystem. And if you think about everything that Google has, they have the search network, very much bottom of funnel, right? They have the display network that covers probably close to 95% of the entire internet. So these are the display ads that you see as you bounce around from website to website. They have Gmail, of course, right? So we have Gmail, we have YouTube, which is gigantic by itself. We have Discover, and we have Google Maps, right? So there's all kinds of different ways to be able to get your messaging out to thousands, potentially millions, if you're doing this nationwide, of people. And again, do you do it all at once? Absolutely not. So it depends on budget. If you're doing it nationwide, you would need a gigantic budget. Most of everything that we look at in terms of cardiology is very localized, but you still have potentially, thousands in big cities, like millions of people. You want to make sure to some degree that your ads are still targeted, even though as you move more and more up funnel, your ads will definitely show to more people at a lower cost per view or a lower cost per click. It's just the way marketing works. As you get closer to the funnel, closer to that decision point, the cost per action, whatever that is higher because there's more value there. Somebody's actually ready to make the purchase. As you move back into the funnel or backwards through the funnel, the cost per action, whatever that might be, like viewing a video or clicking the ad, is way, way, way less expensive. And that is because those people are not, generally speaking, ready to make a decision at that point. But if you build your campaign structure out correctly, again, using the methodology that I've been talking about this entire video series, where you start at the bottom of the funnel, you're training the algorithm, you're using exact match targeting, manual bidding, you move it up, max conversions, probably set your target CPA, start to expand that, attract more and more searches that are long tail, that are completely unknown to you because there's no way to know how people search. They just search in very strange ways. And then you build conversions with that. And then you launch a performance max campaign. This has a higher probability of bringing more and more leads into your practice, again, for people that are not only searching, because it covers the search network, but just viewing content in general across the internet, or possibly looking at an email or watching videos on YouTube. So it truly is across all those different levels of the funnel, all those different levels of the awareness that we talked about in previous videos. We are now going to get our ad messaging all the way out, right? When we're talking about thousands and thousands of views, actually, which is branding. When it comes down to it, a lot of the value that this provides also is branding and name recognition. So similar to when you see a billboard, on the side of the road, or you're watching something on television and a commercial shows up, most of those are not relevant to your interests, to your buying behaviors, to what you're in anything, right? So a lot of it is completely irrelevant. But what's great about what we're doing here within the Google ecosystem is that, yes, there's going to be a lot of ads that get distributed in Performance Max to people who are not actively looking for cardiology or any of the services that you provide. But there are some intent signals that get fed into it. And if somebody's actively looking for anything related to cardiology, or they have other problems or symptoms that maybe they don't even know are related to the services you provide, those ads will start showing to them for all those different types of searches that would be considered upper funnel and not laser targeted to I need help now. So think about it in a timeline. This could be somebody who needs you maybe in 6 months. It could be 9 months, could be a year. So the cost per click is way, way less at this particular level. So it's an investment that pans out over time. And it's a great way to snap in. Now that you've got the training of the algorithm and the success signals that were sent over, it's a great way to now snap in Performance Max to go across channel to all these different points of distribution within the Google Ads ecosystem. So let's now go into Google Ads, and I'm just going to go through it really quickly to show you how to set these up for cardiology. Healthcare has particulars, mostly because of HIPAA regulations, that we are kind of restricted with our audiences that we build, but we're going to take a look at that right now. Okay, so here we are back in this test account. And if you followed me in other previous videos, you know that we built the isolation, these are terms that we use internally, isolation campaign and exploratory or exploration campaign for cardiology. And they're built out in a very particular fashion, covered in previous videos. So that's what we have currently locked and loaded and ready to go in the account. Now we're going to pretend like it's been 6 months or so and that we've got quality conversion data in the account. We are going to build a brand new campaign. So I'm going to say new campaign. In this particular case, we are talking about leads, right? So if I wanted, and I could do website traffic, I could do sales if it was e-commerce and you're actually selling something. But in this particular case, we're saying leads, all right? Now it's going to say, well, what conversion goals do you want to improve your leads? Now, if you're in cardiology, you probably have book an appointment, you have a contact form, you have phone calls. So just make sure those are all set up. You'll go continue. And now we say campaign type, Performance Max is recommended. So we are going to select that. All right, add products to this campaign. That's e-commerce. We're going to just ignore that. Final URL. I don't believe it forces that. We are going to say PMax. Performance Max. I don't want to go all cap. Cardiology. All right, I don't think it's going to force me to do that. Let's go continue. All right, so we are good. We're in the process of building. All right. So bidding, what do you want to focus on? Conversion value is if you had revenue coming into your Google Ads account, which with lead gen, most of the time you don't, okay? This could be something you look at later on. If you have a CRM system that is tracking revenue and you are actually importing that revenue back into Google Ads after the services are booked. If you're not doing that, and a lot of times, from what I see, most cardiologists are not. There's just too much of a disconnect. Then just go with conversion. So we're going to set a conversion. We're not going to set a target cost per action yet. Now we can definitely do that later. Right now, we want to give Performance Max the freedom and flexibility to flex its muscles in the beginning and truly optimize itself without any restrictions. Okay, so we are going to say bid for new customers only. This doesn't really apply that much when it comes to healthcare marketing because we are restricted for the most part because of HIPAA, where we can't do remarketing, right? So if somebody comes in and looks at a service that's particular to cardiology, we wouldn't be able to show ads to that service because it breaches that confidentiality clause. So normally, if this was just a standard client that was not related to healthcare, I could just say bid for new customers only. In fact, it's not going to really affect anything in this particular case. So it's really no reason to check the box. I'm going to uncheck it. We are going to continue to the next page. This is really important. So make sure that you don't have this selected, right? So you want to enter another location. I'm going to say Phoenix, Arizona. So we're going to go with Phoenix. You could do an advanced search. So you could do a radius. You could do radius targeting, zip code targeting. You could do it by county. You could do it by state. There's a lot of ways to slice and dice this geo-targeting section for sure. So we are just going to go with Phoenix, Arizona for now. Languages, it defaults to English. I'm just going to keep it that way. More settings. This is where you can define how often you want your ads to run. So you can set an ad schedule. You can say all days. You can say, by days. You can say Mondays through Fridays only, Saturday through Sunday. There's different ways to definitely set those parameters. You have more settings. So I'm going to scroll down here. Okay, so we have a lot of different sections here. So we have page feeds, which is fairly new. You could actually add a paid. I'm not going to go into this, but it's a fee. So add page feeds to specify which URLs to use in your campaign. So with final URL expansion, you'll use all the URLs that Google knows about your website, including any page feeds. In this particular case, we're not, this would be too time consuming to go into that. You could create a page feed, but for this particular example, we're just going to feed in a URL, like a specific URL when we're building this out. So now we even have more settings, right? So we have more down here, brand exclusions. When Performance Max first came out, it was gobbling up all of that brand traffic. It was really taking like brand traffic away from even search campaigns. It was a major issue. And what was happening is that you had like these artificially inflated performance numbers because it was anytime somebody would search for the practice name, Performance Max would grab it. So now they've introduced this way to actually do brand exclusion. So you can create a brand exclusion list and enter in the name of your practice, enter in the name of the doctors at your practice, because some people might search that way as well. If you want to target your practice name and your doctor names, it should really be in a brand campaign that lives by itself as a search campaign, okay? Let's go into more settings. All right, so we have campaign URL options. These are tracking templates. If you wanted to track your UTMs into Google Analytics 4, for example, we're not going to do that. Age exclusions. All right, so this will override any age-specific demographic hints within that are active on asset groups. We're just going to leave that alone. More settings. Finally, we're at the end. So let's just go next. All right, so this is new as well. Asset generation. Let AI create your assets automatically. Every time I've tried it, the quality is not that great. So we are going to skip that. I'm sure this will get better with time, but we want to know how to build this manually anyway, right? So we're going to say asset group name. This is a test, so I'm just going to leave it with asset group 1. Now this is in beta and new as well. So add search themes. These aren't keywords. These are themes or ideas around how people search. In this particular box, I would just do cardiology. Okay. You'll want to do like cardiologist near me, perhaps best cardiologist near me. These are just prompts. They're just search ideas. It just kind of kickstarts the campaign. Google will take these search terms and expand on them. Okay, so don't take them as literal because they're not. What I would also do is go over to your website. In this case, I'm just going to go back to Phoenix Heart, and you'll want to put in some of your services. So if it's interventional cardiology or peripheral arterial disease or tachycardia or ventricular fibrillation or whatever it is, I would just add as many services as possible on that particular section just to kind of steer it in the right direction. Again, it's going to take those signals and go way beyond that, but within the same theme structure. Now, audience signal data, this is where you add your data. Okay, so when you're adding your data, this is going to come from a section within another section within Google Ads where you can create audiences. So there's actually 2 different places to do this. You can do this on the fly here for sure, and add your data here so your first party data would be your data. Now the challenge here, because you're healthcare, is a lot of times you won't have any data. So this is my test account, right, for my company. So you're going to see website visitors, all visitors, Most of the time, because you're in healthcare, these audiences will be 0 or very small. There are carve-out exceptions for pages that are not service-specific. So if you're interested in learning how to do that, reach out for sure. But most of the time, we're not able to really harness your own first-party data because it's just restricted because it's healthcare. Now we have additional signals, okay? So we have interest in detailed demographics, where we can put in-market segments and life events. And these are events that might have a correlation to the services you provide. And the best way to determine this is just to go through and browse through them. So you can do a search, you can do a browse, you can look at in-market events or in-market searching, like, people that are searching for different things. Unfortunately, I didn't see anything in here that's related to healthcare, and I think for a reason. Life events. So if somebody has just moved to the city where your business is, maybe they're looking for another doctor. That's always a possibility. Detailed demographics, so parental status, marital status, etc. There's different ways, again, to slice and dice this the audience signals. What I would recommend. So let me just finish this. So affinity audiences, what people are, what do they like, right? Custom interests. Okay, so these are related to my test account here because I run an ad agency, right? So not going to be related to cardiology. But what I would actually recommend before you even get into this section, because this is so important in healthcare, is that what you probably want to do is actually create your audiences first. Okay, so I'm just going to take a quick departure from building our ad and show you that. Now, this is under Tools. It's under Shared Library. So Tools, Shared Library, and there's something called Audience Manager. And when you go into Audience Manager, you're going to see your data segments, audience, custom segments, combined segments, data insights, data sources. What you'll want to do is go into custom segments and start creating custom segments before you actually build out your Performance Max campaign. It just makes it more organized and structured. It allows you to think about your audiences better, where if I'm over here building the Performance Max campaign, I have to do this as part of everything else, because down here I'm building out the ad, right? So there's a lot to do for sure. What I would suggest is go and create your custom segments before you actually build your Performance Max campaign. So create a segment name based off of what you're doing. So here we have a couple of options here. Actually, we have 3 different options. So people with any of these interests or purchase intentions, right? So what does that mean? So describing your ideal customer's interest or products or service they're actively searching to buy. Your ads will reach people with these interests or product intentions based on your campaign settings, such as marketing objective or bidding strategy. Okay, so what you want to do there is you want to give this a proper name, first of all. So I would say purchase intentions, and then whatever category it is that you are trying to drive traffic to. So if it's just general cardiology, I would just do cardiology, and then add that in, right? If I could spell right. And as you add them, they'll get added here, and you're going to see that your impressions, weekly campaign or impressions, will start showing up. And I would just do that same. It's almost the same pattern that we repeat over and over. So it's cardiologist near me, best cardiologist, and then the services that we just talked about. So I know it's repetitive, right? So, but just you do it. Just create a list of them. Actually, create a list. You could probably just copy the list and paste it in, or not. I'm not sure. I haven't tried that, but at least you have a list to be very organized, because a lot of this gets repetitive over and over again. So I would just do that. So purchase intentions, cardiology, save. Okay, that's going to save it. I would add another one. Now we need to try this because we want to test. We want to see what works and what doesn't. People will search any of the search terms on Google, right? So now we're talking about how people are actually searching. So I would say search terms, because you want to keep this organized, and cardiology. And again, if you were just doing something specific to a service within cardiology, then just name it that. And then in terms of your search terms, just enter in anything related to the services that you provide. All right, and I'm just going to keep it really simple like that. Okay. And again, you're going to want way more than that. I'm just breezing through it so that this video doesn't end up being 2 hours long. Okay, so we're going to do another one. This time we're going to say people who browse certain types of websites. We're going to say, and we could go in either search terms or intentions. I would probably do both. So I would say intentions. Website, cardiology, And then down here, this is where it gets interesting. Okay, so I would then go over to Google and do some research. So let's do that now. Okay, so you can see I went to Google and I just did a search for cardiologists in Phoenix. I have now Dignity Health. I have Banner Health. I have Biltmore Cardiology. I have Mayo Clinic. I have Tri-City Cardiology. What I want to do, because what we're doing here, heading back over to the audience tab, is that we are targeting or getting a sense for the competitor URLs. Okay, so this is not remarketing of traffic that's going to these websites. I got to be very clear about this. This is a profiling of those audiences. So this doesn't mean that when somebody goes over to tricitycardiology.com that you're now remarketing to that person, like one-to-one. What Google's doing is taking a profile of the audiences, those behaviors, those actions of those people that go to websites like that, and then showing your ads to a much larger audience that fits all those different hundreds, if not thousands of points of connectivity between those activities in the people that are taking part in them online as they go from website to website. A lot of times they're checking out different cardiology websites, right? Which triggers commercial intent, right? So Google's looking at a whole myriad of factors there. But what you want to do is type in or add as many of these competitor URLs into this particular section here. And I would suggest maybe entering in up to 20 competitors in your area. Depends on your market, right? You might be in a small market. Maybe that's too many. But this is a great way to kickstart Performance Max as well. I'm just going to enter in 2 because I want to make this as quick as possible. So now you can see we have intentions, websites, cardiology competitors, search terms, cardiology, purchase intentions, cardiology, right? So, all right, so we're going to go back over to this section here. And now that I've added those audiences, I can, in this interest in detailed demographics section, actually search for them. Okay, so, and there we go. Purchase intentions, cardiology, intentions, competitors. And I would just check both of those. So we are going to seed this Performance Max campaign with those audiences. And that's all we're going to do for now. We could name it, like we wanted to name it, it would include both of those. I'm just going to skip it. Now this final URL section, or this asset section, rather, asks for final URL, asks for a phone number, headlines, long headlines. So if you note here, there's the ability to generate 15 different headlines. So that should sound familiar if you've gone through the process with me in building out the search campaign, because we have 15 headlines in search as well. Now, the long headlines, we have 90 character headlines. Let me just see. There's one that's 60 in here somewhere. So you have 5 that are 90. Oh, where's the one that's 60? It's in here somewhere. So you have a bunch of headlines that are 30 characters. You have, let's just do this out. So we have 5. Okay, so 5 that are 90. Then we have our descriptions down here. So we have 5 descriptions that are 90. Okay, so I have sworn there was a 60. I'm not sure if it changed or something, but, and then you can upload up to 20 different images, right? And I'm not going to go through and add these on the video. Actually, let me add a few and then we'll talk about that. I'm going to bounce over into the Google Sheets document. Actually, I'm going to go over into the ads that we already created for our search campaign, which is right here, right? Because we already built this out. And if you've been running search for any length of time, you should start seeing signals in here that shows what are your strongest headlines. It's also, Google will also mark what's not performing well. So I would suggest taking whatever's your strongest performing headlines out of your search campaign and just moving them over to Performance Max. And that's what we'll do now. Okay, so I've just plugged in a bunch of ad copy that came over from the search campaigns. All right, and I just plugged them in. I'm not going to fill out all of these, but I just wanted to quickly demonstrate this. So now we're down here. Oh, by the way, you can use AI as well. So you can generate descriptions. I actually use a wide variety of AI tools to enhance after I've already gone through the process of understanding how the cardiology, how whatever cardiologist I'm working with, how they actually want to express themselves, what their brand voice is. Once I've done that manually, I will put that into AI tools such as ChatGPT or Grok or Claude, Anthropic's Claude, or there's a whole variety of them, right? So always looking for additional ideas, improvements on what I've got, what I've worked out with my own brain, and then working with the myriad of tools that we have at our disposal now. So I would recommend that because there could be something that you missed. You could be quite surprised. And you could just use generate descriptions here, right? So which works with Google Gemini to be able to provide additional descriptions. Now, in terms of images, the images that are recommended are these sizes. So just hover over the little question mark and you'll see landscape. It gives you the recommended dimensions so you have landscape and you have square images and you have a portrait image that's more for the mobile devices. When I click on images, you're going to see my images. So again, I run an agency. You're going to see images that don't even match up with this cardiologist because this is a test account. It's going to give suggested images, of course. These are very much not related. I would steer clear from the free stock images. You don't want to look like everybody else. But in the asset library, again, you're going to see images related to my company, so it's not relevant. So as you build this out, this will be your library and very relevant to cardiology. You can actually do a search for, you can scan your Instagram account and pull images that way for sure. So, just enter in, you can scan your website, you can scan Instagram. I thought there was a way to scan Facebook. I'm not seeing it now, but let's see here. Actually, I believe it does a search behind the scenes, and anything that it finds, it will pull into the account. So again, I'm all over the place in terms of how I'm building these ads. So I've been looking at Phoenix Heart in Arizona, but the ad copy that I created was for another cardiologist in Florida. So just disregard that. I would suggest, when it comes to like your images and logos, just make sure you have high quality images that have been created and a lot of time and effort has been put into that, and you have an approved set of images, and just upload those directly from your computer. Okay, so I'm just going to pull in a suggested image and again, I would never use stock photography, but in this case, it's going to want something, so I'm just going to go with it. And it creates all these different versions down here, right? So images for your asset group, 3 out of 20. You want to look at them, make sure that they're centered properly. You're going to see this here. If something doesn't look good, then just get rid of it, especially because you only have the ability to show 20 different images. So make sure that everything that you've selected, it's going to reformat in those 3 different sizes. Just double check to make sure it looks good first. Okay, so I'm just going to accept that. We have our images. Logo, so it's defaulting to one of the logos that I've worked on a long time ago. So I'm going to say, just again, we're just playing here with just some fake data. So I'm just going to upload a logo just for fun. Hopefully it meets the sizing criteria. And it does. Okay, so I will just go with that. I don't want this other logo in here though, so I'm going to delete this. Okay. So there we go. And hopefully it hasn't cropped the logo. That's one thing we need to check for. Okay. So this is where you can get into trouble. See? So to do your logos, you have to have a logo that is basically square, right? I mean, it is square. And then you have to have another one that's long that fits this particular format. Just because I don't want to get into image editing, I'm just going to select that and pretend that that's my logo. It's going to get cut off. But again, know that, just make sure you have the proper dimensions on your logo before you do this. Now, anytime you're curious about dimensions, you just click on the little question mark. So you can see here, square logo, recommended size 1200 by 1200. Optional landscape logo 1200 by 300, or the minimum size down here. So just make sure you have the proper logos. Okay, so again, this is just a test campaign marked my cardiologist. All right, so I'm just going to say my cardiologist. All right. Now, videos, another one. This is kind of a tricky thing. If you have videos that have been created for your cardiology practice, amazing. That's great. Be sure to use those. If you don't have any videos, Google's going to create them automatically from your images. And a lot of times they don't look that good. Okay. So if you got the images, plug them in. Don't let Google auto create videos for you. Site links. You could add site links. So site links are just links to various sections of your website. So if that's something you want to do, you'll want to go through and add those. Call to action. Let's see here. What are we going to say? So learn more. Possibly there's a bunch of them that you can choose from. More asset types. So this is similar to like building an actual campaign, a search campaign, the same type of asset types, right? Promotions, prices, structured snippets. If you have questions, just hover over that question mark. Lead forms, call outs. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. So display path, right? You can add that as well. And then that's it. So let's take a look. So we have this ad that we just quickly created on the fly. We built those audiences, and we can preview. We can see what they look like. Okay, so here's the preview, and it's showing all the different ads and what they might look like. So you can see this is search and display and YouTube and discover and Gmail, right? So as I scroll through the page, it's going to show you all the different versions, right? And there's a lot of them for sure. All right, so if we did everything right, then we should be able to select next, and hopefully we don't get any error messages. All right, so we are good to go, right? So this is just a test, so I don't want to spend any money on it. I'm going to say $1 just to get through this. And it's saying, hey, here's your estimate. We get 2.9 weekly conversions at $7. Okay, so pretty good. All right, so we'll say next. Your campaign is almost ready to publish your campaign. Let's see, what is it missing? Okay, we just have to review. We're going to have to look at that. A lot of times that's just a warning. Okay. So these search themes might be giving us a problem. Again, that's related to HIPAA. So this will pop up once in a while. Search themes are new. Remember, it's in beta. So if it doesn't work for you, then just don't worry about it. We can just delete them out. In fact, yeah, so near me, that's a little too focused on the individual. We'll just go with cardiology. And we're going to give this another shot. And okay, and then we're going to say next. And checking for errors. Campaign is ready to publish. Home. Right? So at some point, still thinking about it. Come on, you can do it. So it's saying your ads will go live after a review. And how do you, and this is like measure it conversions. We already covered that in video number 1. So your conversions should already be set up at this point. But again, a lot to unpack there. Almost 40 minutes of video for Performance Max. I didn't do this with previous video sets because it was still in flux. And actually, I never used to trust it for lead gen, but it's gotten a lot better. But again, I can't overemphasize this enough. There's a time and place for Performance Max. In the beginning, when you're launching your campaigns, that's definitely not the time. You got to wait, start with manual CPC, exact match bidding a lot of times. Expand that out into other types like max conversions, coupled with maybe a target CPC, target CPA rather, and then move into Performance Max later on. Again, there's a method and there's a schedule as to how we do this stuff, right? So very detailed. So detailed that it might not be something you want to do. Okay, so if that's the case for you, I do this stuff all day long. Been doing it for over 20 years. Oh, actually over 22 years, and do it right. So we spend a lot of time building out the right keywords, amazing ad copy, the best targeting. We don't take Google's recommendations because 98% of the time they're bad for you. They're great for Google for hitting their quarterly numbers, right, for Wall Street, but they're not good for you. Okay, so we build these things out where there's minimal waste. We're training the algorithm. We're driving performance on a regular basis as we scale and grow your account. So if you want to talk about that, just reach out to me. I can be found at brandrocket.net/schedule. All right. As always, thank you so much. If you're finding this video on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And I think we're actually done. I think we're done with this particular series. Awesome. Thank you so much for hanging in there. Again, here to help at any time, brandrocket.net/schedule. All right. Have a great day.